What is going on, YouTube? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. It is Friday. It is Friday. This is Friday Night Live, hanging out with you guys. 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. I already see some people saying, man, it's late up over here. Appreciate you guys that are already here hanging out. We got an awesome show tonight. Can't wait to talk about all things Miles and company. I want to say what's up to some people that are already here. GT Key, what's going on? Gary, what is going on? Christopher Johnson, I hear you. I hear you, Chris. Keith, I'm so sorry. Hope you can watch it on the replay. So as I always do, guys, I'm going to take a few minutes just to hang out and talk about some updates with the channel. Let some folks get in here. I was going to do my Patreon subscriber Q&A for the month of May, but I'm going to wait until the end of June because I just haven't had that many questions come through. So any Patreon members watching, I want to accumulate some more questions so we can have a nice solid show. If you haven't asked a question yet on Patreon, please feel free to do so. Go find the post. Remember, you can ask as many questions as you want. It could be comic related. It could be anything related. I don't care. That's what it's all about. So first off, if you're just joining the channel and you're not subscribed, please take some time to do so. We just hit 13,000 subscribers. And I say we because, as I always like to say, this channel is about us, not about me. And I forgot some water, but I got a little bit here. Hopefully that'll get me through this show tonight. So, and it's a swamp out here in Northern California right now. It feels like New York. I don't know what's going on. But I want to really thank all of you, all 13,030 something of you that we're at right now, for sticking with the channel and continuously supporting the channel. I know it's been a lot over the last year, really. I posted this on Instagram and what it means to me to go through the challenges that I went through over the last year, including, wondering if I even wanted to keep doing my channel. That all started with drama within the community, where I was questioning if this is even a community, or is it just people that sit in front of screens and want clicks and views, or people that sit in chats and just want validation by getting their chat box thrown up on a screen. Grown men beefing over comic books. I mean, it got so nasty and disgusting. Then I started going through my own personal stuff, and then one of the pillars of this community passed away unexpectedly from cancer. One of the nicest human beings to exist, and the good die young. And it had me really questioning everything. I went through a dark spot in my personal life for about 4 months after that. And I'm thankful enough to have come out and be here. And now, as I said, I'm fighting the algorithms too, because we know how that is on YouTube. But I'm still pushing. We're still pushing. Thank you guys for everything and for being here. Thank you, Gary. Spider Dude. All right. So with that being said, a couple of quick announcements. No comic book canon show this Sunday. We will be back the following Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. I got a couple of videos lined up for the next coming week. Speaking of Spider Dude, I did a video. I already unboxed it from Spider Dude Comics. It was a key that I've been searching for years. I never pulled the trigger, and when I wanted to, it escaped me. And I didn't know if it would ever be in my possession. And thanks to Spider Dude Comics, I have that key now. And I already did my unboxing video. I'm actually looking at the book right now. I'm not going to show you guys tonight. You're going to have to wait for that video to upload. Probably on Monday. That's what I'm hoping for. Can't wait for that. I also have an update about the Comic Pro line bag splitting. So for those that don't know, go check out the video. I did a live stream earlier this week too. I ordered over $100 worth of that I spent with my own money on Comic Pro line supplies, bags, and boards. I did a comparison between Comic Pro line, E. Gerber, and BCW. And at the end of the day, I ended up liking products from all three. If I'm going with this, I'm going with BCW. If I'm doing this, I'm going with E. Gerber. And if I'm getting these, I'm going to go with Comic Pro line. But the thing that really continues to perplex me, where I can't really sit and tell my viewers I support this, go buy these, are the OPP bags that keep splitting on me. I talked with Comic Proline. All right. Had a very, very good productive conversation. And I want to say one thing right now. They offered to reimburse anything that has damaged or split on me. Appreciate them for that. Secondly, I was also going through more of my bags and I started noticing some things. All right. So that's all I'm going to say on that right now. I hope to do either a video or a live stream earlier next week, giving you guys some updates about the conversation and what I'm finding out with the product. And I'm going in optimistic. I'm going in optimistic. All right. So that's a very good thing. Thank you, Gary. And yes, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I hope you guys take a day off on Sunday to spend time with your fathers. If your fathers, to spend time with your children and so forth. Right. All right. So fingers crossed on the Comic Proline front. Like I said before, I'm rooting for them. I'm loving their boards. They're 56 points. Their Mylars are decent for the value. But these OPP bags, man, let's see. We'll see. All right. All right. What else? I got to give another big shout out. You know, I need to put the link in the description. I want to give another big shout out to Crafty Comics because they have the cleanest frames out there. And this is the one that I like to show off the most. My son has the EGS Miles slab in one of the slab frames that they offer, but my son doesn't let me take it off the wall, so I can't show that. But I'm going to leave the link right here. We're still running JFan10 to get yourself 10% off of your orders from Crafty Comics. Their website, craftycomics.com. That's crafty with an I. And the discount code JFan10 for 10% off. All right. So guys, go check that out. I hope to get my hands on some of their, I believe they're called the Flex frames, where they are a slightly smaller frame and they are basically clear and they kind of resemble a slab, of course, without the grade. And they're really, really clean. They're really clean. Very affordable too. I think they're actually cheaper than, slab in your comics. So that's another awesome product that is one of their newest products that they offer. Ghost Junk, what's going on? Oof. All right, guys. So are we ready to get into this topic of discussion? Oh, I also have another video. Got to let you guys know. I got another video of a collection that I picked up. Some good stuff. Some good stuff. You'll see. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Small collection. And then I'm also going to tell you guys in a short, probably coming up this week, maybe the following week, how much I paid for that about 130 book collection that I picked up last week. It was mostly like 80s and 90s stuff. But I was asking all of you guys, what would you pay for this lot? So I can't wait to tell you guys what I paid for that lot. And then you can either give me crap or tell me, oh, right on, Chris. All right. You guys ready for this? I ate pizza tonight and I don't eat dairy and my stomach is bugging, dude. But once in a while I give in. I love pizza, so it sucks. But I'm going to make it through, even though I'm cramping. Here we go. Miles Morales. Across the Spider-Verse is just knocking down the box office right now. I love the film. You guys probably heard my review. We're going to look at some comic books today. I got 6 comic books that we're going to look at because I'm asking the question, guys, are these books for real? Are these books the real deal? Oh, by the way, Art, appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hector, appreciate it. We are in a market right now that is hurting. We are seeing books drop anywhere from 20 to 60%. A lot of people are selling their collections right now. I'm seeing a lot of that. And quite honestly, even as a seller, it's getting harder to move stuff. And on one end, hey, you can say it's a buyer's market and usually the tide will flip. I don't know if we're at that point where it's starting to flip yet, but I'll tell you one thing. What Miles Morales and company are doing is not your average FOMO. All right. Speaking of FOMO, I'm going to read this comment by Comic Book Chris. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Watch your FOMO. I went through the FOMO gimmicky, massive print run comic book glut of my early to mid 90s. Many LCSs went belly up. Royston, DC and the Flash is going to crush Spider-Verse. Okay. By the way, no spoilers for any of these films in the comments, guys. Please keep it spoiler free if you've seen them. We'll see. A lot of positive feedback about the Flash movie, but we're not talking about the Across the Spider-Verse movie necessarily. I mean, that's a factor, but we're talking about these characters and their comic books and what they're doing on the market. And what they're doing on the market has me questioning if this is beyond FOMO. Now, let's break down the FOMO cycle, okay? The FOMO cycle, even in the downturn of the economy and of the comic book market, has continued to look the same. This is how it is. You get an announcement. That announcement could just be a rumor of a project coming. Sometimes these rumors are extremely invalid and ridiculous, like the 2021 Planet Hulk film that was supposed to be released in 2021, released by Geeks Worldwide. And I came out and said it was utter nonsense, and I hope you guys believe me because it was BS. But we often get announcements, there's somebody on board to direct or write or script a project around a certain character. From there, we may get this actor or actress is in talks to play this role. Once we get these types of announcements, that's what sets the market demand to be hot. We start looking into these books. We're starting to get the itch. Oh my gosh, there's a Black Cat film coming. Let's go buy Black Cat books. There's a Craven movie coming from Sony. Let's go buy Craven books. Then there is the trailer. And as the trailer hits, we get even more excited. And boom, we got to rush out. We got to buy these books pertaining to these characters or this story arc, whatever the case may be. And then the movie comes out. And even if it does good, we start to see the cool off because almost immediately we move on to something else. We move on to that next thing. Now, let's bring in the TV shows into this because the TV shows are a different beast because you get kind of like almost like how we would feel a cameo appearance in a comic book would be. And then we anticipate the full appearance. We see them on a splash page at the end of the book. Oh, no, they're coming in the next issue. We're hyped about this. We know that, this character is going to show up in the next issue. Or we see the character and we think that they're going to be a big thing, but then we never see him again, like Frogman. I mean, when the announcement of Frogman in the She-Hulk show, that Frogman book that's been $1 book forever started selling for what, $20, $30, $40. And I was just, when we were trying to figure out who, what's her name was in Loki, and we got the 1993 annual of Thor that had Loki changing into a dragon and then changing into a woman on 2 panels and then changing back to Loki. Oh, this is the first appearance of female Loki in this freaking 50-cent book. Started selling for freaking $15, $20. And remember, I did a video where I freaking took my copy out and I threw it across the room because I'm just like, no. That's how FOMO works. And like I said, I'm going to repeat, even when a film is successful, we see the cool off because we move on to something else. After Thanos showed up in 2018 and 2019 with Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame, his book started dipping decently hard. It started to go back up again a little bit. Maybe that was due to the COVID boom. I don't know. I haven't looked at it lately. But, it's a solid early bronze key that's going to hold value. but we moved on to the next thing. That's what happens. So, what's the point I'm making here today, folks? We got hyped up about the tease of Spider-Man 2099 at the end of Into the Spider-Verse. Then we got the trailer. We got the casting for Oscar Isaac. That pushed his books. We knew Spider-Punk was going to show up in this movie. It pushed his books. And of course, I mean, we got the film coming out because we did see UF4 come down a solid percentage, a solid, 35% drop from its peak. And then the film comes out. And everyone leaves the theater freaking feeling a certain type of way. And I'm going to tell you guys right now what that feeling is. The way that people, especially this younger generation, are walking out of this animated film. And they did it 5 years ago too with Into the Spider-Verse, but I think even more with this one. Into the Spider-Verse of 2018 was our generation's 2002 Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. And when we saw Spider-Man come to life on the big screen and how we felt and the amazing job Sam Raimi did, even though there's a lot of issues like Mary Jane, he did an amazing job with so much in that film. And then Across the Spider-Verse is like to our generation's 2004 Spider-Man 2 and how we felt leaving that movie theater. And you know what I did? That's what got me back into collecting comic books. I went to my parents' house, grabbed my books. I started going back to the local comic shop, buying up some more Spider-Man books. And when I knew the trailer for the third one was coming out, I went and tried to find my black suit, and I went and bought another copy of 252. And it wasn't FOMO. It was nostalgia. It was just that feeling of what this character, Spider-Man, meant to me. Coming as a child, being so into comic books, and this being my favorite superhero. And then I'm reaching into my early adulthood, and I'm seeing this character come to life on screen. And it's bringing me back to the thing that made me fall in love with him in the first place, which was the comic books. This is what's happening with Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and possibly these other characters like Miguel and Spider-Punk, etc. And guys, I'm sitting here saying I don't think this is just the standard FOMO. And we're going to look at 6 books today. Yeah, 41's creeping up because of the Rhino showing up. Yeah, comic book Chris. Cave, do you think Edge of Spider-Verse 2 will go down in value? We're going to look at that right now, Cave. Well, right in a minute. It makes Spider-Man 2 is still considered the best superhero film to this day. By many people, it is. It is. I mean, it's solid. But look, guys, so this is basically my argument tonight. When I say Miles Morales is the future, I know it's hard for a lot of people from my generation and the generation before me to stomach that when they say, well, he's a ripoff of Spider-Man. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And this is where it comes down to mantles, and I'm going to talk about that in another stream yet. I brought that up last week. Not going to talk about that today. That's going to be another topic. It's going to be about the mantle and about the person under the mask. It's going to be about the person under the mask more so, and that's how these publishers are going to drive these characters in the future. It's another conversation, but it pertains to what I'm talking about right now because Miles Morales isn't replacing Peter Parker. Miles Morales is his own character. And the reason why people are falling in love with this character, especially the younger generation, is because of him being Miles. And you know what's so funny? When we say Spider-Man, we pertain that more to Peter. How many people sit and say, oh yeah, I love that comic book character, Peter? Who says that? I don't. But do you realize how many people say, man, my favorite superhero is Miles. I love Miles. That goes to show right there how much Miles is his own character, because they are love and not look. We love the fact that Peter Parker is who he is. He makes the Spider-Man character Spider-Man, that Spider-Man that we love. But he was the original with the Spider-Man mantle, so that's why we call him Spider-Man. Miles, though, is still Miles. And he is a character with depth. He is a character that speaks to people, especially this younger generation. And it is so much so a cultural phenomenon. Because, guys, it's not just the character. I mean, these films that are coming out, they're hitting a emotional nerve with the emotions of the character, but also by backing that up with the soundtracks. These soundtracks, Metro Boomin, who did the soundtrack for this Across the Spider-Verse, is taking a sound and relating it to this character that it'll forever be a part of the character. It's like, it's kind of like a theme music. Like, what's a song that you relate to a movie? How about what's that Journey song that's in the Rocky movie, right? I mean, like that, when you hear that song, it's like you think Rocky, and it gives you whatever you were feeling watching that movie with Rocky, when he's training and he's the underdog and he's coming up, and it's like, you feel that, and the music drove that. It made you fall in love more with that character because of the music behind it. So when you're not even watching the movie and that song comes on, Eye of the Tiger, and you're bump, 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 it's like you feel like you don't need the movie. You feel you're Rocky. You're Rocky when you're listening to that song. That's what the music behind these movies are doing too. This is so much more than just a comic book movie and people having this misguided, I don't want to say wrong, but a misguided conception that just because a character is showing up in a movie or a TV show, it means I can't miss out on buying this book because it's going to blow up and make me rich. It isn't that. Yeah, Dave. I mean, absolutely. Spider-Man #1. I have that book. Peter, what's going on? Or Survivor? Is that what is it, Gary? I forget. Some of Journey's ballads sound the same. It is Journey, right? Or was it Eye of the Tiger? And then was it what's that other band that it starts with an F? Oh my God, now I'm getting my 70s and 80s rock ballad bands mixed up. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm a brain farter. I really am a brain farter, and I brain fart on words all the time. But Foreigner, thank you, Midwest Will, and Horvath, thank you so much. Another good band. Journey's local, though. Bay Area natives. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Hulk 197. Yeah. Guys, my point, was still made. There is a cultural phenomenon going here. And I think this is what's changing the dynamic, because some of these books, people left the movie, this Across the Spider-Verse movie, and the books are still booming. They're not moving on to the next thing. They are coming home obsessing over these books. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. All right. So, but let's pull up some books, guys, because we're gonna look at this. We're gonna ask the question: FOMO or something bigger? Now we're what? We're what? 3 weeks out from the release, 3 weekends out from the release of the film. I think Invincible books are solid. I mean, and that Invincible TV show, I can't wait for season 2. It's been way too long. I don't know what the hell they're doing. We need a season 2, damn it. All right, here we go, guys. We're gonna bring this up. Bring up the first book here. And what is it? None other than, of course, Ultimate Fallout 4. Now, first appearance of Miles Morales. Obviously, guys, the book, like I said, I mean, I think one of the highest sales was like 3,400, but the average, that was kind of an outlier. The average at its peak was still roughly around $3,000, $2,900. So, as you see right now over here, we got a fair market value sitting around the 1,800 mark. Near mint raw sitting around the 650. We got a recent sale for 700. So let's look at what this book has been doing. We're going to look at graded copies here. And of course, we're looking at first print. So we're looking at 9.8 graded copies right here. And there's two things that we want to look at. We want to look at units, right? And price. Look at how many books have sold over since the trailers were dropping for the film next to the months before. I'm just going to rough eyeball it. I mean, there's obviously always copies of this moving, but I'm going to eyeball it and say since, April looks like they started to increase a little bit, but since May and June, it looks like the books have possibly almost doubled in units being sold and moved on the market. Now let's look at the prices. So we got, I should have worn my glasses, 1,800, 1,675. Here's one for 1990, one crossing over the 2,000 mark, 2000, 1920, 1916, 23, 21, 2019. And this is all since the film's release. Okay, 2000 here. So look, we got a couple of lower valued ones in there. Now, not all 9.8s are created equal. It is a modern book. You think they all probably have white pages. But, sometimes it all depends on if they're on eBay, the ending time of the auction, how many people are actually sitting on the auction. And it can be just one or two people bidding something up that can drive that price up just a couple $100. But overall, this book over the last few weeks has been hitting close to that $2,000 mark, except for a couple of sales. Like 2 sales that sold for like 16 something. All right, let's look at what it was doing prior. And when we go back to the spring, you're seeing a couple around that are like 1,900, 1,800, but you're seeing a lot more 1,600s, even like 1,400, 1,500, 1,700, 1,600, 16. So already you're seeing a trend upward since the release of the film over the last few weeks. Around here, you're seeing some 1,900s at the beginning of the year, but again, nothing crossing over that 2,000. Oh, you got one that crossed over the 2,000 mark in January, but 1,400, 1,500, 1,600, 16, 17. A lot more that are sitting around anywhere from the 1,500 mark to the 1,900 mark. Probably with the median or a median average of around 17 something, whereas now the average is more closer to around 19. Now here towards the end of the year, of course, from last summer up until winter, that's when you started to see a big cool off. But that's just the market, right? So I will say, I think it is absolutely fair to say that since the release of this film, the average sale has gone up a little bit and it's moving more units. Gary, even though I'm a Peter Parker guy, I don't know Baruch, anyone like him, Miles, and hey, I love them both. I've grown to love Miles. Steve Bradley, what's going on? The Ryer, the Kaiser. Miles is about business. Demographics are changing. Let me see. I got to bring this up. See what comic book Chris says here. Demographics are changing. It's easier to relate to someone that looks like you and then includes the global market. Will that FOMO translate to big money? And again, do we even call it FOMO? And that's what I'm asking here. I will say this. I think, Chris, you bring up a good point. Somebody that looks like you. Anybody that says that doesn't matter, and I don't want to get too much into, oh, this is politics. First off, race shouldn't be politicized. Anybody that thinks that having a character look like you, anyone that thinks that that doesn't matter has had the privilege of having 99.9% of characters that they grew up watching in movies, TV shows, or comic books and cartoons look like them. So they never even been having to be conscious of, oh, wait, there's a superhero that looks like me. You've never even had to be conscious of that. But, of course, it's not the only thing, right? Like, Miles doesn't look like me, and I love him. I love him, and I can relate to him on so many levels. Obviously, I relate to Peter on so many levels, too. Peter's my guy. But you don't even need to personally relate to them. Like, oh, that's what I go through. You can just relate to them as who they are and be like, man, that character is awesome. So all of those things are valid, though. One doesn't cancel each other out. And comic book Chris, you're right. There is a different demographic out there. And there is a global demographic that a lot of collectors aren't understanding, that, especially with the comics, as Jim Lee talked about this 3 years ago now almost. They want to reach the global demographic. And they're going to be doing different things to try to make that happen. I know, quite amazing that a modern book is commanding around $2,000. Red pill to vegan. We can look at 9.6s real quick. Let's bring that up. And a big shout out to Cover Price, guys. I'm a paying member of Cover Price. I've been so for like 3 years now. And I just love what they do. Their algorithms are great. They're not always perfect, but they bring in real-time sales. 9.6 right now is trending around an average of $768, with the last sale yesterday for $800. So there you go. And then we got Raws trending around $650, $700 in that near mint plus range. All right. So yeah. Sean Miller. What's going on, Sean? Let's see what Sean says here. Since the second movie, I have seen Edge 2 in 2099 increasing at a higher percentage than UF4. We're going to look at that, Sean. Well, I don't know, Sean, if you just hopped in, but there has been a slight increase over the last few weeks since the movie. Slight. They're definitely trending at about a couple $100 more in the 9.8, and there are more moving on the market. But you bring up something very important about Edge of Spider-Verse 2 in 2099, and we're going to look at those coming up next here. I love that Peter Parker's a lewd pun. I agree. Roy Seston, absolutely. Midwest. Hey, I relate to oh shoot. I relate to Spider-Ham, even though I'm not a talkie pig. I love it. By the way, guys, I have a Spider-Ham #1 for sale if anybody's interested. Oh yeah, absolutely. I was just saying too. I know it hit like a 30, like there was a high sale of 3,400 in a 9.8, but if you take the average, I believe at the peak the average was around 2,900. That 34 was a bit of an outlier. There was a couple that hit over the 3,000 mark, but I think that the average was still like right around 3,000 or right under in terms of that moving average. So it's still down about, a third from where it was at its peak. All right, guys, let's bring up the next book that we're going to look at. And that is none other than Edge of Spider-Verse #2. And I do believe, Grunt, you were just talking about this. So, First Print Spider-Gwen. Let's look at what this book is doing. Obviously, we're going to look at first print. I mean, guys, if you look at what these numbers are, they're not far off from UF4. It seems that high-grade raw are selling at a higher, ratio next to their 9.8 graded counterpart next to UF4. But still, solid, man. 9.8 selling over $1,000. Let's bring this up. All right. So again, two things we're looking at: units moving, and then price. So, any more units moving? Again, I'm just eyeballing it, but again, it seems since the start of the movie here, how many are across? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, we got about 12 units moved. About 6 in May, 12 in the last couple of weeks. You got about 6 in May, and then about 8 in April. So, it's moved a little more units than the last couple of months. Now, let's look at the value. So, again, we could go back to last summer and see that, this book was trending around. There's a couple of them breaking the 2,000 mark, barely, though. Only a couple. Those are outliers. You got more of the 14 to 15,000, a couple 17,000s. And then it started trending downward, 11,000s, 11,000s, a lot of 11,000s. Then it started hitting under the $1,000 mark earlier in the year, 900 here, but then 12. This is a little more all over the place. 10,000, 11,000, 10,000, 10,000, 900, 900, 8 something, 10, 10, 10, a lot of the 10,000s. And then you get to the last couple of weeks, and we got 1,200, 1050, 1059, 1,200, 1050, 1126, 1050, 1051, 1,300, 1,100, 1,100, 1060. So again, if we were to compute the average of these, slightly up, but again, not that much. Let's actually look at, now I say take raws with a grain of salt because you're just basing it off the listing grade. But let's see if we can see a trend here. Yeah, because, not a lot of books are moving raw like this that are in this grade range. The last one sold was in April, so we can't really base anything there. Yeah, this isn't a very good indicator looking at raw books. So, but again, you can't argue a slight increase since the movie came out. Which again, what was my argument here? If it's just FOMO, usually we start demanding higher before the release and drive that price up until the release. And shortly after the release, we start to see it cool off because people move on to the next thing. Over the last few weeks with this film, that has not happened. They are either holding their value or slightly increasing. Sean, I agree. I do think that these books have a good chance of moving upward slowly, even in this economy right now, because of the hype so much. But it is going to be a live action Miles or the whatever that's going to drive this book crazy. Midwest Will, people talk print runs and being a modern when it comes to Miles, but look at ASM. Yeah, and you know what, Will? This is why I should probably do a live stream talking about print runs. The argument about print runs is so overdone. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings that may think otherwise or may talk about print runs, but I'm sorry, print runs, the emphasis that we put on print runs, we need to chill. We do. It does matter. It does matter. But it's not as big of a variable as we make it out to be. All right, but moving on. Gary, yeah, well, I mean, you know, she is a cross-dimensional or multiversal Gwen. Obviously, she's not our Gwen, Peter's Gwen from our main universe. But hey, you know, there is the facsimile out there, which is actually selling for over cover price now. I think the facsimile is selling for $15-20 plus now. And there's always, you know, digital that you can read if you want to read the story. But I'm going to be quite honest, I haven't read her story yet myself. And I want to because of the movie. It's got me that interested. Oh, this is an interesting comment from Sean. I find it hard to drop major money on high grade raw modern keys like UF4, New Mutants 98, Edge 2, as the asking price for them are close to the SAG rates. Oh my God. Well, Sean, interesting enough, I have the reverse logic. Usually, I'd say I'll never buy a 9.8 comic, especially for modern comics. I would rather buy a near mint raw, press it, clean it, and try to submit it maybe to get that 9.8. Quite honestly, even if I was buying graded, I'd buy a 9.6 before a 9.8 because I don't want to pay 3 times as much for a book that I can't even eyeball the difference half the time, or knowing that either one of those books, if you cracked it and sent it back, the 9.6 might get a 9.8 next time, and the 9.8 might get a 9.6 the next time. That's another reason why I wouldn't buy 9.8s. I just don't care about it like that. I think 9.8s are absolutely overrated, but that's just my humble opinion. But my logic is usually the opposite. But the funny thing, Sean, and this goes to another talking point that I'll probably do a show on real soon, is that something's going on with graded books. Usually when a book drops on the market, if a raw book in its respective grade drops 25 to 30%, you're going to see the graded book in that respective grade drop somewhere around the 25 to 30% too. They're going to follow similar trends. That's been changing over the last few months. And it's something that I personally have never seen before. And I just got some books back from CGC and I'm like, shoot, should I have kept them raw? Something really interesting going on. And Sean has a point here with what he's saying. But still, if you look at the 9.8, I mean, the book's trending at around $2,000 right now in a 9.8, while, you know, the raw counterparts in you know, near mint plus are what, around $700? Was that what it was? $750, $800? I mean, that's still a lot cheaper. And I personally probably for that book would, you know, buy raw. And hey, if I ever send it in to get graded and it comes back at 9.6, I'm not going to cry about it. Yeah. Yeah, I hear on the 9.6 too. Yeah, I mean, yep. I hear you. Absolutely. All right, guys. Let's look at this next book. Here we go. All right, we got Ultimate Comics Spider-Man #1. This is Miles's first volume solo Ultimate Spider-Man story title, excuse me. So first solo title, second appearance of Miles Morales, first appearance of Ultimate Prowler and Jefferson in Rio. So we got this book trending above $200 in a high grade near mint, trending around that $600 mark for a 9.8. All right, let's look at this. Let's look. So again, we're going to look at two things. We're going to look at units sold, how many are moving. There's an increase of units moving and value. So first, let's look at units. No, we haven't had a 9.8 sell in June yet. Yeah, I mean, we can't really say that more units are being sold, at least of the 9.8. Let's go to 9.6s. Oh, yeah, many more 9.6s out there. You got 5 that sold in June already. Definitely, you can see a much, I mean, I know it's still only 5, but, you know, you only had 1, 2 sell in May, only 1 in April, a few in March, a few in February. So, I mean, again, not really a movement in units necessarily. But let's look at what the 9.6 is doing. I mean, what does that say? 190 or 198, 220. The last one sold for 225. But you had one sell for 275 in April, but 190, 250. So, kind of all over the place. Let's look at the 9.8s. Last one sold for 600, 615, 561, 700 back in March. So, yeah, I mean, 699, 570. I would say it's definitely following the same trend that it's been following for the last 6 months. So we don't really have any data here stating that people are running to this book. Let's look at some raw copies. Yeah, I mean, you got more in the very fine range being well. I mean, here's this in a very fine range. You didn't have one sell since February until June when the movie came out. And the last one that sold in February was $49. One before that was $49, $33, $59. But then it starts to go up here in June, $57, $75, $81. So we're seeing an upward trend there. But again, still a little bit all over the place. So I don't think we have any indicators, any valid indicators to actually make a hypothesis on this one. All right, so let's move from Miles and Gwen, and let's go over to another awesome supporting character in this film that once we saw the sneak peek at the end of the first film with Oscar, you know, well, and then we knew that Oscar Isaac was voicing the character. That really, really hyped people up. Really hyped people up. We saw him on screen. Oscar Isaac did an amazing job bringing this character to life. This is, well, as they say here, first appearance of Spider-Man 2099. And for you guys that have heard me talk about this character's first appearances before, I believe this is the first cameo appearance of Spider-Man 2099 in preview. I think that's the proper context, and I think it absolutely matters. Because I do believe that Spider-Man 2099, number 1, is indeed the first full appearance of Spider-Man 2099. Nothing will ever change my mind. Ever. All right, let's look at these numbers. Let's go to the 9.8s. All right, let's look at units first. Oh, yeah, this is moving units. Since the movie, we got about, 18 books? That's a definite increase in units, as maybe you had anywhere from 6 to 12 each month before, and already in the last, not even 3 weeks, basically 2 weeks, we saw almost 18 units, almost 16. All right, let's look at the numbers. We got 170, 177, 305. I wonder if newsstands are getting caught. I wonder if that might have been a newsstand. 230, 200, 215, 200, 195, 185, 185, 160, 200, 200, 180, 220, 210, 200. So really trending around the 200 mark. with a couple above 200 and a couple below 200, buy anywhere from $10 to $20. This one was trending a bit downward from its peak. You know, we had a lot hitting over 300 at its peak a little over a year ago. Started trending down well under 200. Started trending around the 150, 160, 170 mark towards the end of last year. And then, you know, going into this year, it was trending similar to what it's doing right now. You got a lot of 190s, a couple over 200 from January to March. So it's definitely trending upward from, you had its peak, it came down some, and it started to go back up a little at the beginning of the year. This could be because we've seen Miles before, we've seen Gwen before in the first one. We know that this character is coming for the first time, and people are a little more excited about that. So some of that could be driven by typical FOMO. But again, I mean, since the film came out, it's moving more units, and it's holding that price that it's been at for over the last 5+ months. So that is solid right there. Let's see let's look at some comments before we get. I think we got what, two more books? 2 more books to look at. You want us to look at if you're going to look at Ultimate Spider-Man 1, you need to look at 5. Sean, what do you mean by that? The red piled vegan, keep them raw and put in a nice frame. Hey, I mean, you know, you could always use a crafty comics frame. You know, JFan10, the discount, craftycomics.com. That's crafty with an I. Shameless plug. Okay. Omar, let's see what Omar says. I just watched a Whatnot sell of a UF4 Raw for $900 when eBay had buy it now 9.6 for $725. It was crazy because they said it was probably maxed in a 9.6. Yeah, that's about what the 9.6 are selling for. So interesting, Omar, is that I always tell people this, like, when you're on Whatnot, have eBay up too. I mean, how hard is it, right? Yeah, I hear you. That's a little FOMO right there, or just a little of them not doing their due diligence. And Sean brings up a point, because just the environment that those books are being sold in, there is a sense of FOMO. And that sense of FOMO is the live sale and having the urge to have to win. Having the urge to have to get the high bid. But Sean, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. That same thing happens on eBay. Even though it's not live, I know it's a little more intense. But if you're sitting there, if you're able to have your phone or your computer and you're watching a book that you bid on and it's getting down to the last, 30 seconds, don't tell me, especially down to the last 5 seconds, don't tell me that you might not automatically be hitting that higher bid and go past what you thought was going to be your max, because that happens too. I've been a victim of it. I'm going to partially agree and disagree with you here about Sean about that. It's an appearance because he appears. I mean, it's simple. He appears. He's there. It's a preview. And I believe stating the context that it's in a preview matters. But he appears. He's there. Now, it's a unique type of preview because it's not an actual preview book. It's an actual barcoded newsstand distributed comic book with a snippet preview in it. Therefore, it's different than just say, like a previews, a Marvel previews that shows the character for the first time. That's different. It's a very unique situation. I do believe it is the first appearance, whether you want to call it a sneak peek, a cameo, etc., in preview. You have to state in preview. And that allows us to see that Spider-Man 2099 is truly the first time that this character has its story being told, because our sneak peek was from that book. That's the character's first full appearance. I got Sean. Issue 5 is what you're talking about. Okay. Gary, not to get off topic, but I just saw the editor's cut of Spider-Man 3. Oh, wow, really? I haven't seen that. I'll have to go check that out. I didn't even know something like that was released. What? Miles Morales' first appearance was in the final panel of Incredible Hulk 180. Mr. Burgles, what's going on? Okay. Burgles always win. All right. All right, guys. We got a couple more books to look at here. Speaking of first appearances, 2099, we're about to do that right now in terms of the first full appearance, because that's what I believe. Now, they call it the first solo title. I mean, that's correct. That's correct, too. But I also believe it's his first full appearance. All right. Yeah, it looks like Near Mint plus Raws are trending upward. It's been a $33 average. 48 was the last sale. 9.8s. 200. Let's see. Wow, definitely moving a lot more units. Look at this. Look at all these units in June. Woo! 200, 200, 200, 200, 182, 192, 175, 175, 170, 165, 150, 102, 23, 175, 175, 207, 190, 185, 143, 182, 300, 182, 300. I wonder if that's a newsstand, and it just sometimes the algorithms on cover price to tell you sometimes. All right, guys, at the beginning of the year, this book was definitely trending. I mean, it was trending anywhere from roughly $115 to $150. I mean, that's a rough average. Anywhere from 150 and 150, a couple below that. And right now, it's trending much closer to that $200 mark. So this book has, man, in terms of percentage-wise, this book has probably seen the highest percentage of increase since the movie release of all the books that I've shared. And again, people are seeing the movie and they're coming back to the market and buying and paying more. They're not moving on to the next thing. Nice. All right, guys. Another character that I thought they did an amazing job with, that stole the show in this film. Spider-Punk. Amazing Spider-Man 10. First appearance of Spider-Punk. Let's look at what this book's doing. Oh, my God. I mean, you had one sell for 40 and two on average 36, but it looks like we've had one hitting the 100 mark, hitting close. I mean, oh, my goodness. I might have to sell my copy. I think I only have one copy, too. Now, there might not be too many 9.8s out there on the market yet with this book, but this book has shot up. I mean, I think you can see it trending. This is probably around when we got the announcement and the casting, last summer and early fall, where the book was trending around $300. But it really started dipping at the beginning of the year. Most sales under the 200 mark, 130, 140, 130, 140, 150. 137. But as we itched closer to the release, it started going back up again. 200, 200, 172, 215, 225. And then when the movie came out, oh wait, then this is interesting. Then we started seeing a couple dip again in May. But then when the movie came out, back up 180, 223, 202, 215, 251, 291, 261. So you definitely see that trend since the movie came out. Since the movie came out, it hasn't had one sale under $200. And most of them hitting above the 250 mark. That's solid. So, and again, this character was a great side character in this film. Let's bring up the one that we'll do one more that Sean suggested. All right, we are going to bring up which one was it? Issue 5? Oh, this is the wrong. Nope, hold on. Let's see. Ultimate Spider-Man number 5, right? From 2012. Where is it? For some reason, it is not coming up on cover price. Huh. This is very interesting. Let's go this. I'm going to go into the series. There it is. Okay. Oh, yeah. The one with the Spider-Woman on the cover. Okay. Wow. Impressive. Yeah, let's look at this, guys. Yep, you can tell this is trending at work because most recent sales are beating out the old Near Mint Plus sales. And then you got books trending over $500 in 9.8. Here's the crazy thing. I gave my kids all these books. They probably still have them and they're all beat up. I know I gave them an issue 1 and they ripped the cover off. Hey, that's the fun of having kids. I mean, you go back to last year in May, this book was selling for $134. Even in July, it goes up to $300. And again, it's hard to give a fair market value when you don't have that many moving on the market. But, you had 2 right under the $500 mark in April, $475 and $499. And the last one sold for $575. So, I mean, and that was after the movie. Again, it could just be one person. I'm not going to say that this is the fair market value, but it goes to show that there's a few people out there that were willing to pay more for this book. Man. All right, let me get some water, guys. I'm going to give my we're going to do thoughts on this and closing statements on what I think this means. I mean, I already gave an argument of why I don't think these things are just FOMO right now. Let me look at some comments real quick first. Do these have newsstands? Well, newsstand wasn't eliminated until 2013. So I can't say yes, they do. But newsstand was still around. It was an extremely small percentage of certain comics. But I do believe that, I don't know if Marvel ditched it before 2013. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know I've researched it before, but. All right, guys. Like Comic Book Chris here says, 6 months from now, compare market value. And we will. And I'm always doing that. But I'm going to stand here right now and say this. even if these books from these characters start to cool off again in the next 6 months, you know, it could be because of a bigger issue that goes beyond comic books, and that's the struggling economy. You know, we can't just sit here and look at the downturn in the market as inherent to comic books. Oh, people are not interested in comic books anymore. The demand's going down because they're pulling out and nobody cares about comics anymore. You can't say that. Money is being pulled out of many markets because people are hurting for money. Everything has been down. Everything has been hit. Almost everything. So it's a natural occurrence that is bigger than comic books. So that could keep happening. I don't know what the future holds. I mean, the stock market did really well this last week. Interest rates have been leveled off, and inflation as well. And there's some optimism, but who knows what can happen. But outside of what these books might do in the next 6 months, I could come back here 6 months from now and say, oh, look, these values have dropped some. It doesn't change the fact that I believe the reason why people are paying what they're paying now is because of the real deal, and not just this FOMO idea of, again, people being misinformed, thinking that something that just because it shows up in a movie or a TV show, that they feel that they need to have it or they're going to miss out because it's going to make them rich. I honestly believe with all of my heart that this is much more than that, especially with Miles and Spider-Gwen. These are two characters that are going to have a lot of longevity in the comic books. I think there's so much that they can do with Spider-Punk. And I've always thought Miguel was a great character. I read a lot of the original 2099 run when it came out in the 90s. And, you know, Peter David did a great job. I think he's a great character. And I like what they did with him in the film, too. They gave him a little more edge. You know what I mean? I think that these characters are the future. And no matter what their books do over the next 6 months, year, or 2 years, these books are going to continue to increase in value long term, in my humble opinion. Again, especially Miles and Gwen, specifically Spider-Gwen. I think you have to understand that, and I think I've said this twice on my channel now, and I'm going to say it again. We live in a world, anybody born probably in the late 50s, because by the time you were 4, 5, 6 years old, that's when you're starting to retain memories. And here come all these superheroes like Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and X-Men and all this, and Avengers. We never knew a world without these characters. We never knew a world without them. They are as American as apple pie. They're as pop culture as, like, I mean, they are ingrained in our society like bread and butter, water and air, sun and heat, rest and sleep. But we've never been in a world where we've had characters. I mean, that look. All right, actually, we have. Let's look at Venom. Venom is like, we are the generation, like, we didn't grow up with Spider-Man. I mean, we did. We weren't that first. We weren't generation one. Like, that was our parents, people my age, for the most part. Our generation had Deadpool and Venom, right? Even Wolverine was like that next generation. And look what Wolverine is. And then people like me who, born in the 80s, I never knew a world without Wolverine. These kids and these young adults have never knew a world without Miles and Spider-Gwen. And that's why when they come of age and you start talking about relating to characters and nostalgia, these characters are going to be just as nostalgic to them as Wolverine and Venom and Spider-Man were to me. And once our generations are gone, I'm not saying that Peter Parker or these other characters are going to die out, but I think it's going to be hard for these newer generations to differentiate the fact that, well, Peter Parker was here first. They don't care. They grew up with both of them. Do I care that Wolverine came after, and I know, like, hey, that came after Spider-Man, that Wolverine came after the original X-Men? No, he's still my favorite X-Men character. These characters are going to be around for a very, very long time, and they are the future. It doesn't mean they're your favorite. It doesn't mean you're ever going to vibe with them the way you vibe with the characters that you grew up with, and that's okay. That's okay. I'll never vibe with today's music like I vibe with the music that I grew up with. But that's okay. It's okay that kids from this generation will vibe to this music more than I vibe to mine. Comic fan, what's going on? Let's see. Let's get to some comics. Holy Harlot, what's going on? I like your prediction, Sean. I like your predictions. I do think, the Spider-Man 2099 can drop a little maybe. But remember, guys, I don't know about 6 months, Comic Book Chris. We got another movie coming out in a year. And I think that's going to hold these books up for at least that year until that next film comes out. And the thing we got to remember, Chris, when people say, oh, it's the 90s all over again. No, it's not. And I don't think it ever will be. Now, do the publishers and do resellers hype up gimmicks? Sure. It'll never be the 90s again, though, because nobody's mass producing. Remember, everyone blames flippers and all this on the 90s crash. What made the 90s crash was the publishers overprinting, period. Can you imagine? Because, you were going into the 80s already printing a couple 100,000 print run. Can you imagine if you went into the 90s sticking with just a couple 100,000 print run instead of boosting them up to 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, 8 million copies? Can you imagine? Those books would have held much better value, and you never know what would have happened with collectors. Collectors would have never felt the burnout. They would have never felt the fool me once thing with the fact that, oh, these books are mass produced and now they're worthless. I think if the publishers didn't mass produce those books, we would have never saw a downturn. Marvel would have never went bankrupt, and we would have saw a new golden age of comic book collecting. They would have changed everything. Where we were at right now, it would have been completely different. Completely different. That's my opinion. The Real Tech Geek, what's going on? There are probably only about 1/4 of the UF4s graded, assuming 6K. There's about 71,000 UF4 first prints, roughly 71,000. There are probably only. Why do you think a higher percentage hasn't been graded? Well, I think first off, only a year and a half ago, there was about 3,000 on the census. And now there's almost 4,000 9.8 UF4s. Keep that in mind too. More and more people are sending them in. But I think it's going to be interesting because with UF4 coming in a poly bag and the black cover, it's going to be tougher for those books to get 9.8s than I think people think. I do. Oh my God, Gary. Wow. Thank you. You know, man, see, I'm actually tired. I don't know if you guys can see it in my energy today, but I am utterly exhausted. It's my first week of summer. I don't teach in the summer, but I do my YouTube. I do comic book sales. I have 2 kids. I cook, I clean. I got a lot going on, and I haven't been sleeping, and it's been catching up to me. And I was going to start the show today, paying my respect to my favorite comic book artist of all time, John Romita Sr. I'm going to step up for a minute, and I'm going to grab something here real quick. I feel horrible that I blanked on this. But I gotta show off my it's really tough to see in the lights. There it is. My John Romita sketch of the Goblin. And this was gifted to me by a friend of the channel, Steven. And he sent this to me last year. Steve, if you're watching, I really appreciate you, of course, but it means so much more. I mean, look, we're not going to glorify the passing of someone. He was an old man. He lived a good 93 years. But, this will always mean so much to me because he inspired me as an artist and brought to life some of the greatest stories in comic books ever written, in my humble opinion. So, absolutely paying my respect. I called him the greatest comic book artist of all time. Obviously, that's subjective, but my favorite for sure. All right. The Real Tech Geek says reserved investments is absolutely wrong that comic book characters will fizzle out. They are the new mythology. You are absolutely 100% in my book correct, The Real Tech Geek. I've had this conversation with my son, and he's even said it. It's like, we're going to be like 1,000 years from now, we're going to be pulling out the archives of these characters that we went from writing on walls to writing on papyrus to newsprint. These characters are mythology, modern day mythology. I agree. The Real Tech Geek. I love the conversations that are going on in the chat right now. Omar says, worried about value of UF4 if most of those 50K ungraded are ever graded. Omar, let me put this in perspective. Okay. And I'm not going to do it because, quite honestly, I've been going for over an hour now. We're going to wrap up here soon, and I'm just tired. I would bring up Go Collect, and we'd look at how many are on the census. I don't know off the top of my head. If you're worried about UF4 because of the other 50K not being graded, be worried about Amazing Spider-Man 300. Because there's over 200,000 copies of that. I honestly think the last time I checked, they estimate that there could be closer to 350,000. No. That was that? No, that was God, see, I'm tired. Was it 300 or New Mutants 98? Now I'm thinking that was closer to 400K. I don't remember but the bottom line there is at least close to 250,000. Even Hulk 181, there's over 200,000 copies of Hulk 181. Now, guarantee you, it's a Bronze Age book. There's not going to be as many 9.8s, but still, there's a lot out there. So I wouldn't be too worried, but that's just the thing with graded comics, and graded comic books only being around still for about 20 years, and people still sending more and more books in, and it becoming more popular, and more books being sent in. It's not just the one book, it's the value of the graded comic. There's going to be more and more supply of all comic books in all grades available on the market as the years go by. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. Nicholas, what's going on, man? Thanks for popping in. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy what that variant is selling for. Yeah, I think I saw one not signed for a little over 30K. That is crazy. I mean, let's look at it. Let's do the math real quick. If you got 70,000, oh shoot, hold on. This is how tired I am. I went to Google search instead of my calculator. 70,000 divided by 25. You're looking at 2,800 roughly. That's if, probably not even that much, because you're not ordering, you got to think of every retailer ordered one per every 25. So I don't know. I mean, that is a very small amount. It is. So it's crazy, but yep. It is crazy. All right, guys. I'm exhausted, man. I don't know what it is. Usually I'm all like this, but I am winded. But it's been a great show. And I appreciate you guys being here tonight. Really good interaction. Really good things to question, guys. I mean, I do think that, like I said, regardless of what these books do on the market, they might fluctuate this way or that way. But I think the hype around these characters in these books is much bigger than your classic FOMO. That's what I believe. I think people are buying these books because it actually means something to them. They are truly excited about this character. It's not just people thinking that, oh, I'm going to go flip these. Oh, we got an announcement. I'm going to go flip them, or I'm going to get rich off of this, or I can't miss out on this. people really are enjoying these characters and coming back to the comics and demanding them. That's what I think's going on. We got another year for the next one to come out. I think that's going to hold the values. After the last animated comes out, maybe we'll see a little bit of cool off. Like I said, we got to see what's going on with the economy too, because those are extrinsic variables that are tugging on the market, unfortunately. So overall, I'm loving these characters myself. They're never going to take away from the classic characters that I love so much. But, you know, so many comic book collectors and people in this hobby complain about we need fresh characters. And while I know that they're taking a mantle that was already there, this is Miles. I teach at an elementary school. I see more kids wearing Miles stuff than standard Spider-Man stuff. I do. I see there's, I think, 3 kids at my school that are named Miles. I will say one of them is named after Miles Davis. So I know, I'm cheating. But it's there. It's real. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. So, with that being said, Mark, thank you. Omar, Holy Harlot. Austin, what's going on, man? Nick, Nicholas, thank you guys for being here today. I want to remind you all to have a safe weekend. Enjoy Father's Day with your fathers. If you have them still here, you are blessed. Don't take it for granted. Say the things that you deserve to say, or that they deserve to hear. And if you're a father, I hope your kids do something for you. Spend some time with your kids. Be safe, guys. Be well. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Lots of awesome live shows and videos coming up over the next couple of weeks. Can't wait. Oh, one more thing. Guys, I just picked up 2 collections this last week. Follow me on Instagram, journos_comics, because I'm staying away from Whatnot right now, and I still have yet to do a video or a live stream on that if I'm completely done with Whatnot. But guys, come on. You got to follow me on Instagram. I'm not like a sales page, so the algorithms are tough. I'm trying to get them up. I've been doing claim sales. I do awesome deals. I'm always open to offers. And I do package deals where I'm like, you know, I put 4 books up and I'm like $5 each or claim 2 for $8 or something like that. I will be there are books up right now for sale that are up from a Wednesday sale that I did. I'm going to do another claim sale tomorrow. So usually what I do is I keep old books up until I do my next claim sale. I'll take those down and then start the next one. So if you guys want to go claim stuff right now, they're up there. There's a lot of good stuff up there. Like I said, I'm always open to offers. Journos_comics on Instagram. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much. Be well, be good to yourselves and others. And until next time, peace.